What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another FPL video on the channel. And in today's one, we are going to be looking at a Game Week 2 free hit draft. If we could get 70 likes on today's video, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I just do want to point out, right, I'm not playing my free hit this week. This is just a team that I would build if I personally was going to play my free hit chip this week. But with that being said, let's waste no more time and let's get straight into it. So let's start things off with the back line. And in goal, we do have Petrovic, and on the bench, we do have Dubravka, and then we do have a back three of Gabriel, Gyokeres and Lacroix. So this is the defense I've decided to go for. And first things first, let's talk about Petrovic. He does have a home fixture against Wolves, and I do think on paper, when you look at the fixtures this week, it is definitely one of the better fixtures for a defender. Now, I do know in the Bournemouth-Liverpool game, from a defensive point of view, Bournemouth necessarily didn't look too great, but you have to remember, guys, it was against one of the best teams in the league, Liverpool, away from home, right? So there's always going to be an element there of vulnerability at the back. Yes, Bournemouth, of course, they've also lost a lot of key players in their back line, but I do think against the weak opposition like Wolves, their clean sheet prospects are going to be a lot higher, and they also do have the home advantage as well. So I just think at a price of 4.5 million, looking at the fixtures this week, Petrovic isn't necessarily a bad pick in my opinion. I think maybe some people might look at it as a bit of a dodgy pick or as a bit of a weaker pick when looking at this team, but at the end of the day, I think when you see the firepower elsewhere, it definitely makes sense to go for a 4.5 goalkeeper like Petrovic with a home fixture against Wolves. That's just my opinion. Now, in the defense, of course, we've got Gabriel, Gyokeres. For me, these two players are absolute locks, right? Gabriel playing against Leeds at home. It's a great fixture on paper. Yes, I do understand that Leeds had a great game against Everton, but look, right now, Arsenal are one of the best teams in the league, right? So it's a different kettle of fish for Leeds, but they're not playing against Everton, they're playing against the big boys now, right? They're playing against Arsenal away from home. So I do expect Arsenal to dominate the game. I do expect them realistically to get a clean sheet, to be honest, because yes, even though Leeds did dominate against Everton, they weren't really that clinical, right? And they're not going to get the amount of chances against Everton they did against Arsenal. So for me, I think Gabriel, good for clean sheet potential, good for obviously the set piece threat, and possibly some defensive contributions there as well. So I like Gabriel. Gyokeres as well, I think, is a great pick. I think Chelsea defense is nice, but for me, the main thing I love about Gyokeres is, oh boy, does that man love to make an attacking run. Oh boy, does that man like to get in the box. That is my biggest positive about Gyokeres, is his attacking positioning is so good. The attacking runs he makes, it makes him so good for potential for goals and assists. So I really do like him. And of course, you've always got the potential for defensive contributions, and Chelsea being a solid defense is very nice as well. Also, West Ham going forward were really poor against Sunderland, right? In terms of expected goals, they were the third worst team in game week 1. So it shows you that they didn't really create a lot of chances in that game against Sunderland. So yeah, for me, I think Chelsea most likely going to dominate the game, and I would definitely expect them to get a clean sheet. So I really do like Gabriel. I do like Gyokeres as well. And then we also have Lacroix, and he's got a fixture against Nottingham Forest at home. And for me, look, Lacroix is just a defensive contributions monster, guys. He really is. In the last game against Chelsea, he managed to rack up 16 defensive contributions against Chelsea, which is absolutely ridiculous. And even last season, he was definitely one of the better defenders in the Premier League for making defensive contributions. So yeah, the proof is in the pudding with Lacroix. Really good when it comes to defensive contributions, which is why I do like him for this week specifically. And look, yes, Nottingham Forest, they put in a very good performance against Brentford, but I think Crystal Palace are going to be a lot better than Brentford this season from a defensive point of view, even with the loss of Eze. As you guys know, Eze has actually signed for Arsenal now. So even with the loss of Eze, I still think from a defensive point of view, Palace will be a better team than Brentford. So look, again, when you look at the fixtures this week, it is definitely one of the better fixtures on paper for a defender, in my opinion, especially when you do factor in how high his defensive contributions potential is. So that's why I've gone for Lacroix. One thing I will say with this team, what you could potentially do, guys, is actually swap Petrovic and swap Lacroix for Henderson in goal and Dorgu at 4.5. That's also another option you have with this team. So you could swap Lacroix for Dorgu and maybe play and go for the attacking upside instead, because maybe Dorgu isn't as good for defensive contributions as Lacroix, but he certainly does have the attacking threat. And obviously Man United do have a game away to Fulham. On paper, that is quite tricky, but I have to be honest, man, with the performance we put in against Arsenal and how impressed I was with that performance, I am pretty confident with us getting a result there away at Fulham, if I'm being totally honest. So I do think at 4.5, Dorgu isn't a bad shout. Now, again, you don't have to do that, but it's just something, I'm just sort of opening up a different avenue for you to take with this team. So you could, instead of having Petrovic and Lacroix, go for Henderson, so you still get the Crystal Palace defensive cover, but instead of having a Bournemouth defender, you have a Man United defender with attacking threat in Dorgu. So that is definitely one option that you have there. But with that being said, guys, let's move on to the midfield and the forwards. In midfield, we do have Anton Semenyo, Bukayo Saka, Tijani Reinders, and Morgan Rogers. And then we do have a front three of Erling Haaland, Gyokeres, and Ollie Watkins. So I feel like it's a very, very powerful midfield and attack, and I really, really do like it, if I do say so myself. And the first thing you might notice is there is actually no Cole Palmer in this free hit draft. I have to be honest, guys, if I was playing my free hit this week, I certainly wouldn't be going for Cole Palmer. Yes, on paper, the fixture against West Ham is very, very nice. I can't deny that. But for me, all these picks, all the premium picks I've gone for, your Haalands, your Sakas, your Gyokeres, your Watkins, these players here, for me, are all much better picks this week when you compare them to Cole Palmer. That's just my personal opinion. You might disagree. I'm no FPL expert, but this is just my opinion. When you look at sort of how poor Cole Palmer was, not only in the last game against Crystal Palace, but the whole of 2025, for me, there is just no justification for picking Cole Palmer on a free hit. At the end of the day, for me, my personal opinion is if you're picking Cole Palmer on a free hit, you're literally just doing it because his name is Cole Palmer. When you actually look at it from in my opinion, a logical standpoint, with how poor he was, right, in the second half of the season last year in 2025, to how poor once again he was against Crystal Palace, and sort of the lack of, again, with him playing in that same left 10 role, right, and the lack of chance creation, the lack of shooting opportunities he's getting in this Maresca system, for me, there is just no strong argument now to sort of pick Cole Palmer on a free hit this week, right? Especially after the evidence we've got from last week. So once again, there is no Cole Palmer in this team. That's just my personal opinion. Now, look, you got Semenyo here. He's got a nice fixture against Wolves at home. Very, very good. I think Semenyo, we know he's going to start. We know he's going to get 90 minutes. He bagged a brace against Liverpool. Looked really, really sharp. And I just think, again, on paper, it is one of the better fixtures you can get in game week 2. So for me, a Bournemouth attacker is definitely needed on a free hit. Some people might go for Even Olsen instead. There is no Even Olsen in this draft, but again, when you got the front three that I've got here, Haaland, Gyokeres, Watkins, I just don't think you can really make room for Even Olsen, unfortunately. So we've only got Semenyo in the attack, but I like it. You've got the Bournemouth attacking cover, and at the end of the day, Semenyo is the main talisman for Bournemouth. So yeah, I like him as a pick a lot, and I think Wolves, obviously they got destroyed by Man City 4-0, and I think their defence is there to be got at. So yeah, I like Semenyo as a pick. We've also of course gone for the Arsenal double up, Saka and Gyokeres. I've actually got Saka as captain in this draft, but you guys can captain whoever you want. But yeah, if I was going to free hit, I would captain Saka or Gyokeres this week. But yeah, the Arsenal double up on a free hit, it goes without saying, right? You must have the Arsenal double up of Saka and Gyokeres on a free hit draft, in my opinion. I mean, it's a great fixture against Leeds at home. As I said, yes, Leeds, they play good against Everton. I'm not denying that, but at the end of the day, like I said before, it's a different kettle of fish now. Leeds are playing against the big guns. They're playing against a team going for the Premier League title, right? The first home game of the new season as well. I'm expecting a massive performance from the Arsenal players, and I'm expecting a good, convincing win, which is why I've decided to go for Saka and Gyokeres in this free hit draft. I can imagine those two getting a lot of attacking returns in this game. So yeah, for me, on paper, on paper, it is hands down the best fixture, right? It's the most enticing fixture. It's the fixture with the most upside. So you've got to have Saka and Gyokeres in there. That goes without saying, in my opinion. And then we've also got the Man City double up, right? Reinders and Erling Haaland. Now, a slightly more difficult game against Spurs at home, but with how good these two players were in the first game against Wolves, I think on a free hit, for me personally, again, on paper, you might argue that it's not necessarily the easiest fixture, especially when you do factor in Spurs' good record against Man City in recent years. So 100% there's an argument to be made that Haaland and Reinders necessarily aren't great picks this week. But I just feel like, again, when you look at the fixtures in game week 2, I just think it is one of the better fixtures, honestly. I do think in this week specifically, it is one of the better fixtures. So yeah, like for me, you could pick maybe Mohamed Salah or a Cole Palmer instead of going for Erling Haaland. But for me, I think Erling Haaland this week as a premium is much better than Cole Palmer. I think he's much better than Mohamed Salah. So for me, if I'm picking another premium to partner Saka, to partner Gyokeres, I'm picking Haaland ahead of Salah and Palmer. So yeah, that's why he's in there. And also, Haaland's got the form, to be fair, right? And so does Rangers, and so does Man City. So yeah, for me, I think, look, you can look at it both ways. You can say Tottenham, they've got a great record against Man City. It's going to be a tricky game. But you could also look at it from the point of view of Haaland being a better pick than Salah and Palmer this week, and Haaland having the form after just scoring 2 goals in the first game against Wolves. So look, I think, yeah, if I was free hitting, I certainly would have Haaland and Rangers in there. Now, look, moving on. We do have Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rogers in there, who've got a great fixture away to Brentford. Again, for me, it's one of the better fixtures this week on paper. Yes, Aston Villa stunk up the place last game against Newcastle. They look really, really poor. I have to be honest. I think the way Newcastle defended in that 4-5-1 formation was so good. The midfield battle as well. Newcastle absolutely destroyed Aston Villa in the midfield. I mean, Aston Villa was so poor, so sloppy with their passing in the midfield. So, look, overall, it was a sloppy performance from Aston Villa. However, we saw Brentford get absolutely destroyed against Nottingham Forest, and I do expect us to really see Brentford be one of the teams that are fighting for relegation this year. That's my honest prediction, right? I do expect a massive drop-off with Brentford, and therefore I consider them one of the teams to target. So I do think, right, Aston Villa will bounce back in this game. We saw Nottingham Forest beat them pretty comfortably, right? 3-0 up in, I think it was the first half or something like that. So yeah, we saw Nottingham Forest beat them comfortably. As I said, I'm expecting Aston Villa to bounce back. I'm expecting Ollie Watkins, Morgan Rogers to provide those goals and assists in this game. And we saw the number 9, Chris Wood, bag a brace against this Brentford team. Why can't Ollie Watkins, man? I think they were defensively, they were so poor, very exposed, very vulnerable. So yeah, I'm expecting a dominant performance from Aston Villa. I'm expecting Rogers and Watkins to perform. Now, one thing I do want to quickly mention is that you could actually make one change like to the midfield and the defence. So maybe instead of having double Villa attack, instead of having Rogers, what you could do is actually free up some money, first things first, by downgrading Gyokeres to Chalobah, right? Chalobah costs 5 mil, so then you get an extra million from that, and then you can therefore upgrade Rogers to one of Cunha or Brian and Mbeumo of Manchester United, as they do have a fixture against Fulham away from home. Again, that is just something, not necessarily something you have to do, but I'm just, again, giving some different combinations that you can do with the team. So yeah, I think, Manchester United were pretty convincing against Arsenal, so I actually do like our players like Cunha, like Mbeumo, even Amad Diallo as possible FPL options. So yeah, if you didn't want to go double Villa attack and go for both Rogers and Watkins, you could take out Rogers for Matheus Cunha or Brian and Mbeumo, and then downgrade Gyokeres to someone like Chalobah, for example. So yeah, that is just a quick suggestion on what you could do. So yeah, this is the team that I have gone for, guys, as my free hit draft. Obviously, like I said, I'm not personally playing my free hit this week, but if I was going to play my free hit, I would definitely do this. On the bench, you've got Ronaldo, Esteve and King. So it is a very cheap and weak bench. However, we expect every single player in the starting 11 to start, right? Unless we sort of get some mad injury news or a player gets sick or something like that before the game, every single one of these players is most likely to start. So yeah, for me, I like this team a lot. I like this free hit draft a lot. I think it's good on paper. I would definitely consider building a team like this. And of course, look, disclaimer, I'm no FPL expert, so you ain't got to build it if you don't want to. But yeah, I think on paper it's a pretty decent draft. So yeah, let me know what you guys do think of this free hit team down below in the comments. And one quick thing I do want to say is Ollie Watkins, I think, is a good captaincy shout as well, other than Bukayo Saka. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If we could smash 70 likes on the video, that would be absolutely fantastic. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's deadline stream and live watch along, West Ham versus Chelsea. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. But until then, I'm out. Peace.